I'm the general manager for Mid Markets globally for IBM. So Mid Markets, just very briefly, IBM defines as any company with fewer than 1,000 employees. So essentially small and medium business, some mid-sized enterprises. It also usually includes all of the cloud and managed service providers. So a lot of service providers, other than the large telcos, typically don't have a lot of employees, but they have a significant IT infrastructure investment and service both small businesses and large businesses. So that also fits within my scope. So 2 years, a little bit less than 2 years with IBM. British originally, but moved around a lot. I haven't lived in the UK for 30 years, so.
Well, in our region, this is almost all the market.
Yeah. Yes, it's true. Actually, in Latin America, it's very much a small medium business market, and I think one thing that we're actually seeing probably the fastest growth of all my regions right now is in Latin America for small medium business, and overall, the mid-market is the fastest growing customer segment within IBM. So it's seeing a lot of growth both within the cloud service provider part of my business and just small and mid-sized businesses. I think helped a lot by this shift to cloud. And the transformation that we're going through with not just one technology that's changing, which the last time we had a major shift like this was probably 25 years ago with the move to client-server computing. But today you've got cloud, analytics, mobile, social, which are mutually reinforcing. So you have almost an exponential change in the technology. But perhaps more important than that, I think, particularly for small and mid-sized businesses, is it's changing the business models. It's changing whole industries. With in one of the keynotes today, one of the speakers was saying, you've got companies like Uber which are disrupting the taxi industry. Who would have thought the taxi industry was one that was going to be disrupted by mobile and social and cloud technologies and analytics also. So it's changing things in ways that nobody would have expected just a few years ago.
I would like to ask, related with that, that how much percent of the companies are mid-market that you work with? And also, is it more complicated to convince them than to convince big companies to adopt the new technologies? Do you feel like it's a challenge?
Good question. So we don't split out IBM revenue by company size, so we don't publish that. It's, I believe, around 90% of the companies in the world fit within this, less than 1,000 employee size. So it's the vast majority of companies that fall within this definition of small and mid-sized businesses. They, I think, contrary to general understanding, I'm seeing are actually adopting these new cloud and analytics, mobile and social technologies faster than larger companies. It's maybe due in part to the fact that they typically don't have as much of an investment in legacy, older technologies. So just as we've seen developing markets adopt new technologies like mobile phones faster than some more developed markets. In fact, they just kind of leapfrogged, had no telephony infrastructure at all, and then went straight to the latest 3G and 4G mobile data networks. Similarly, as smaller businesses see what they can do with cloud, in particular, cloud is kind of a key enabler that allows them to compete with large companies almost like they had the same IT capabilities that large companies have. Many of them don't even have an IT department.
Yes, without the investment in huge investment in technology.
So I think that's the key difference, is they don't have to make the big upfront capital investments that they used to. So it allows them to get access to the same kind of technologies that big companies have, but still keep the advantages that small companies have in terms of being agile, nimble, less bureaucracy, they can move faster. So I think this is actually allowing small businesses to compete with much bigger businesses in ways that they never could before. It's even letting them, focus the few resources they have more effectively and reach markets that they couldn't reach before. I've had a discussion with actually an IBM business partner in Poland a few weeks ago, who was telling me that he has his traditional IBM reselling business, but on the side, he started a second business with using analytics in the cloud, and has developed a cloud service that he's making available to customers all around the world. His current territory was just around in this one town in Poland. But now, because he's got a cloud service, he's making it available through different cloud marketplaces, and he's reaching customers in Latin America, in North America, in other parts of Europe. As a small, as a one-man show, now he's got a couple of employees. But he's able to expand internationally using software as the infrastructure with no upfront capital expense, no people on the ground, and he's competing with companies in those local markets that he would never have competed with as a small business. Usually, he would have just expanded maybe to another city and maybe nationally within his country, and then over many years perhaps grown to be a bigger company. So I think it's changing the whole dynamic of the way small and medium businesses actually get to use the few resources they do have, both people and capital, to compete in markets and with companies that they may not have ever considered competing with before.
As even IBM defines this market to 100% channels, you don't sell anything direct.
Yeah, not really.
I think in all the world, or what we are worldwide.
We really, everything is.
Or this is the idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if in all the regions applies.
I would say almost 100%, and maybe there's a few exceptions, but almost 100% is through business partners or cloud service providers. Yeah.
There are some tools for these VPs to share their experience from one market to another.
Yeah, so we have the partners who are part of the IBM partner world, and I think we have, tens of thousands. I don't remember the exact number, but certainly tens of thousands, of which 7,000 are managed service providers, cloud or managed service providers, which is a 30% increase on the number of cloud service providers we had in the program last year. So it's continuing to increase. Through that, we enable partners to connect with other partners, and we also publish success stories from one market that can be very relevant in a different market. So one example I was just describing earlier, an IBM team in the United Kingdom identified a customer reference in New Zealand working with a rugby club using analytics and data on different rugby players' previous injury history, how many games they had played that season, how many training sessions they'd attended in the previous weeks, and they're using SPSS, which is an IBM predictive analytics tool, to predict the likelihood of them getting injured in the future. So then taking that customer success story, working with a local business partner in different regions, I think two different partners in the UK, they came up with a marketing campaign that IBM and the partner co-funded. They created a fake newspaper customized to each one of 97 different sports clubs. Soccer clubs, rugby clubs, cricket clubs, and everyone was a little bit different. The headline was, this particular team's key player was going to get injured in 3 weeks' time. So, headline, Rooney gets injured in
2 weeks.
3 weeks from now. And then the text explains that if they'd been using this tool, working with this business partner, they could have avoided getting injured and they could have gone on to win the championship. Out of 97 that got sent out, we had 47 that called within a few days to ask for a meeting with IBM and the business partner to see how they could actually use the same approach in their team. So, that's a huge response rate. And of those, there are several which are turning into actual projects. So that type of an approach, to answer your question, is exactly the kind of thing we're trying to do. Work with specific partners, taking a reference that's worked well with a customer in a particular industry in another market, apply that in the local market, co-fund the investment in marketing to identify other opportunities, and then work with the partner to close the deals. So that's great question. Thank you.
And do you think the program that you announced today, the organization, one team, one channel,
yep,
it will make any difference on the approach on this small and business mid-market? Do you think the approach is going to change? What changed with this new organization?
So I think the organization is really a response to a request that we've been getting for a long time from partners to simplify the way we do business with them. We have a very broad portfolio, lots of different products, hardware, software, services, probably broader than any company in the industry. And that has lots of positive benefits. It also has some negatives in terms of complexity and making it difficult to do business with us for a business partner.
I think no one in IBMs knows all the software solutions that you have.
It's very hard to...
No one.
I think you're
it's
right.
almost impossible.
Yes, I think that's true. Yeah. Which is also why it makes sense to work with a number of different partners who have specific skill sets in particular technology. But the one-channel approach is designed to really simplify all of the different programs, because historically, every brand came up with its own set of incentives and rewards for working within that particular program. So while each of them individually might make sense from within that group inside IBM, when you look at it from the partner's perspective, that ends up being multiple different programs, multiple different incentives, multiple different ways of going to market, and that can be complex and just takes a lot of time and effort for the partner. So I think it will help the partner engage more simply with IBM to actually grow their business with their customers. Given that my part of the business is totally reliant on business partners of different types, I think it ends up helping the small and mid-size business because the partner is able to serve them better. So I think that's a sort of side benefit.
Why is it possible to serve better? Can you give more concrete examples?
So in the... I'll take an example. So
for example,
last week in Japan, we were talking about a service provider partner, company called BitAisle, BITAISLE. It's a cloud service provider partner of ours, and they had recognized that there was an opportunity in the security space caused by one of the competitors exiting the market. Competitor was pulling out of the Japanese market for security solutions, so this partner identified an opportunity. Then we had to think about which technologies within our portfolio would make sense to address this opportunity, and it actually ended up being some services from within GTS, which is the IBM services organization, with a managed cloud service, together with a software product called QRadar, which sat within the old software group. And the combination of those two, together with a joint marketing program, that was funded by my mid-market team, which is again a separate group. But to the partner, we could pull it all together into one seamless approach to their customer, which was actually an offering focused on mobile game developers, online game developers in Japan. So they crafted from multiple pieces of the IBM portfolio their own offering, which was a cloud service around security to prevent phishing attacks and fraud in online commerce, people buying elements through the online gaming. Very competitive offering. We've started to see their customers buying that, which is pulling through more software sales for IBM and more services sales for IBM GTS. But the combination of those things, which were previously in different groups, together with a marketing, co-marketing approach with the partner, to get to their customers, who are many, dozens and dozens of small developers, is an approach that seems to be working.
Okay.
So I think that's the kind of approach that we now really want to continue to build on and replicate in other markets around the world. So it's interesting that it starts with a customer problem, rather than starting with an IBM technology and trying to find ways to sell that. It starts with, there's a game developer who needs to prevent phishing attacks and fraud in their commerce transactions, and then works back to who are the partners that have that skill set, what are the technologies that we can tie together, and then what's the sales and marketing approach that we can make that available to the customer. So that's a complex chain, but if we can simplify it and allow the partner to go to market quickly with an offer in a few weeks, from concept all the way through to execution, that gives the kind of agility that we were talking about in one of the earlier presentations today.
What, in terms of the market strategy for the next years, no?
Yeah.
What do you think about the mid-market? Because there are some gurus that think there will be a very massive consolidations of the corporation and whatever. Some others say that the contrary is so there are in the world are born more companies than there are death. What's your opinion about that? So what do you think? The creativity and the innovation will be present in some ways to just born new companies all the time, and so the mid-market will be healthier?
Good question. I think if it had not been for this radical change in cloud analytics, mobile, social, the trajectory would have been for companies for more consolidation and larger companies taking more and more share. I think what's changing is particularly cloud as an enabler for smaller businesses to actually be competitive without having to grow their employee base. So I think what you're seeing is lots of great innovation from relatively small companies that don't need to see an exit by selling out to a large company in order to get scale. They can actually scale themselves, staying relatively small, which has advantages in terms of being close to the customer, being nimble, being
complexity,
fast, simplification. So I think the cloud has actually maybe changed the trajectory of what would otherwise have been a natural trend towards more consolidation. I suspect we won't see that. I think what we'll see is a rich proliferation of lots of smaller businesses who can succeed and stay relatively small with the advantages of being small, but still get scale, which they would not have been able to get previously. So that's what I think my crystal ball would say.
With other companies, with other technology, the change used to be from the company to the partners. But in our area where a huge quantity, for example in Mexico, about 90% of the companies are SMB.
Yes.
Yes.
So the partners are habituated to deal with
Right.
this size of company.
Yeah.
And traditionally, IBM is think as a huge companies' customers.
Yes.
So the change is more in your side than the partner side.
Totally agree. Absolutely.
This-
Yes. Part of my job responsibility is to change the internal mindset of IBM to think more about, serving the small and mid-sized business through partners
Yeah.
and through cloud service providers as the route to market, and not necessarily rely on the luxury of having IBM sellers engaging directly with mostly large enterprises. I think we're beginning to see fruits of that. As I mentioned earlier, it's the fastest growing customer segment in IBM. So, we're obviously very keen to find avenues of growth. Wall Street expects IBM to show growth. We're
But what this question means to me is, and I think it's a very good question, if we can see bills from IBM not so expensive, no? So because that's the point. So if every solution of IBM costs $3 million, it's just not for
Right.
very small. So do you think that with this cloud solution, we start the average bill will be lower all the time? Because this is the success. If the average bill of the IBM transaction is lower, the total revenue will be higher, no? But
although I sort
Yes.
of agree, but I think it's also it's a little bit more complex than that, because part of the way we serve the small business is through a cloud service provider. As the world shifts to cloud services, I'm not selling directly to that
no,
small
I
business.
understand. Yeah, yes,
I can sell a multi-million-dollar transaction to a cloud service provider.
yes.
who
But
then-
they also
who
resell.
then resell that service on
small
a
pieces.
small drip by drip by drip to multiple, hundreds or thousands of small businesses. They're still IBM customers, even though they're not transacting directly with
Yes.
me. And they may only be spending, $50 per month per seat, for maybe 10 people, $500 a month.
And these are market that you
It's a
don't.
market that we could never serve
Yes,
previously.
before.
So that's again why it's absolutely critical for our growth to be able to serve a segment where we have relatively low share, relatively low mind share as well. But now through these new cloud services, we can actually be relevant to those customers, even if they don't deal directly with them.
Yes. That's the point. That there is a kind of partner between that, but
Yeah.
But
Now, in
some-
some cases, the local business partner also has a role to play. It's cloud services sounds great, but actually, 70% of companies this year believe that they will have a hybrid cloud implementation, not just a pure sort of public cloud in a remote location.
Sorry, we have time for 2 more questions.
Thanks, Harry.
Yes. Which are the biggest challenge and weakness of the small companies to adopt technology and take the next steps?
Yep.
And which are the hours as well of IBM?
So for the companies, I think it is a challenge of skills. It's knowledge, understanding of what's possible, and I think the key role of the business partner there is to help them with sort of bridge the gap in knowledge between what their particular business challenge is and then what's technically possible, and connect the two so that the customer sees the benefit without having to develop their own skills, because it's changing all the time. So that's a huge investment in time for the company to develop that technology expertise. That's why the local business partner plays a key role in bridging from the technology to the company. And from the IBM side, I would say probably the main challenge right now is changing the perception that we care about small, mid-sized businesses and the partners that serve them. I think to your point as well. So it's a marketing challenge. It's a partner engagement challenge. To a certain extent, it's having the right offerings. So obviously, as we expand our as a service portfolio with more SaaS offerings that are easier to buy through digital channels, through digital commerce, that becomes more relevant for small business and medium-sized business. But I think the main, if I were to only choose one right now, if I could wave my magic wand, it would be that customers understand that IBM cares profoundly about the small and mid-sized business market and the partners that serve them.
I have a question. When you say about small business enterprise, startups are including on this?
Yes.
Yes. And I would like to know if you think today, just an example, most part of developers from startups and very small businesses that are emerging now, it's about one guy that knows about some technology, that invests in this technology, and the business grow.
Yes.
Do you think today the partners and IBM has a close conversation with these kinds of people, these innovators that are investing in one technology because they know the technology, they can trust in that technology,
right.
And then the business grow, and I think the relationship, it's a continual relationship.
Yes.
As the business grows too.
Right, right.
Do you think IBM has this relationship today with this kind of...
We have some. I'd say we don't have as many as we would like. So we're taking a number of steps. Sandy Carter earlier was presenting about the innovation labs and a startup fund where you can have up to $120,000 of free soft layer infrastructure as a startup to get going. So, a significant amount of money for a startup to have access to these technologies to get started. We're also, there's a number of initiatives very focused on entrepreneurship and building that connection to innovators, developers, entrepreneurs in markets around the world. A lot of those are also very much about being present in the local market. So it's also about us working with our business partners to connect into those local entrepreneurship and startup incubators. So there's no magic wand here because this is a very fragmented market. So partly it's back to the point on awareness, partly it's programmatically, how can we make ourselves attractive as a first place to go for developers and entrepreneurs. Partly it's having the tools. So IBM Bluemix, for example, sitting on top of SoftLayer, is a set of very simple templates and tools to make it really easy to get started with a new development and really focus your time and attention on the unique piece that is really going to make a difference in that particular project, not having to redevelop something that already exists, and you can just take an existing module and build on that to get going in minutes. So it's about becoming relevant to the startups and entrepreneurs with offerings that save them time, and also it's building awareness. So I think those two are key, and as I say, we have more and more companies that are building a relationship with us, either directly or through one of the partners that we work with. We still need more though, so still lots of work to do. Thank you. So I have to